The gravest mistake one can make in these fleeting hours is to presume that the shadows clinging to the familiar corners of your own world are the only ones capable of devouring light. For from the ancient lands where the rising sun often bathes forgotten shrines in crimson, a darkness stirs. It is a darkness born of sorrows so profound, of acts so unspeakable, that its chill will seek you out, even across the vast, indifferent oceans. Tonight the veil thins, and I, who have witnessed the forbidden, shall unveil 5 grim legends from the heart of Japan, tales etched in dried blood and whispered through cracked mirrors, that will leave you breathless, entangled in their chilling embrace. Belief in the everyday, the mundane comfort of what we perceive as reality, is a fragile shield against the truth that lies just beyond its shimmering surface. In the hushed stillness before dawn, when the veil between worlds is thinnest, I often find myself standing on the precipice of forgotten lore, observing the spectral dance of entities that defy comprehension. Japanese folklore, in particular, possesses a unique ability to twist the ordinary into the terrifying, to find horror not in grand monsters, but in the intimate, the almost imperceptible flaws of our own existence. They know how to burrow into the deepest crevices of our minds, planting seeds of fear that blossom into waking nightmares. Tonight we descend into that abyss, a journey through spectral tales that have festered in the collective consciousness of a nation, tales that have stained the very essence of its ancient soil. These are not mere stories, they are echoes, reverberating warnings from the other side, omens that cling to the unsuspecting. Prepare yourselves, for the light you crave will not penetrate the depths we are about to explore. Dim the lamps, draw the curtains, and listen closely, for the whispers from beyond have found their way to your ears, their urgency growing with each passing moment. Many among you have felt the primal fear of what lurks beneath the bed or within the cavernous darkness of a wardrobe. Those primordial fears born of childhood innocence shattered by unseen presences. We conjure images of grotesque beasts, shadow-clad figures that prey on our vulnerability in the dead of night. Yet Japan, in its infinite capacity for macabre creativity, has birthed an entity far more insidious, one that does not require the vastness of an open space, but thrives in the claustrophobic confines of your very home. This being does not hide in grand, imposing shadows, but in the almost invisible fissures that scar your dwelling. I speak of Aina Konoena, or the cracked child, a specter that claims the tiny, overlooked imperfections of your abode as its domain. It is a girl, appearing impossibly small, her form a mere suggestion within the narrow gaps between your furniture and the walls. In the minute cracks that spiderweb across ancient plaster, she watches, a silent sentinel, her gaze piercing through the very fabric of your domestic peace, patiently awaiting the precise, agonizing moment to reveal her presence, to bridge the gap between her world and yours with a single innocent-sounding question that will forever alter your fate. The air thickens, a palpable weight settling upon your shoulders as her voice, a faint, childlike whisper, finally drifts from the forgotten recess of a darkened room. Want to play with me? Do not dismiss this as a child's fancy or a trick of the mind born of solitude. This is not a request. It is an omen, a declaration that you have been chosen. To refuse, to allow the rational mind to dismiss her plea, is to invite a relentless, chilling torment that will unravel the very threads of your sanity. Your refusal, a defiant act against the unseen, will only fuel her dark obsession. Her ethereal presence, once confined to the shadows, begins to seep into the very fabric of your waking life, a constant, unyielding surveillance. You will feel her eyes upon you as you rise with the first blush of dawn, as you break bread, as the cleansing waters of your bath fail to wash away the creeping dread. She will materialize at the periphery of your vision, a fleeting glimpse in a cracked mirror, a shiver down your spine in an empty room. Sleep, that sacred sanctuary, will become a new battlefield, her form twisting through your dreams, whispering her plea, twisting it into a suffocating command. The torment will intensify, a relentless siege against your spirit, until the desperate exhaustion compels you to yield, to finally utter the fatal word. Yes, this acceptance, born not of willingness, but of sheer agonizing fatigue, seals your doom. She will propose a game, a simple game of hide and seek, asking you to find a place of concealment while she counts. The initial thrill, the morbid curiosity of playing with a ghost, may briefly mask the terrible truth, but understand this: once you agree, once you step into her macabre playground, she will never cease her pursuit. The first round of this unholy game may pass without incident, a temporary reprieve before the true terror unfolds. But then she returns, her voice an insistent echo from the depths of your house, demanding a second game, with a crucial, heart-stopping twist. Now it is your turn to seek. And here, the true horror of Hachishakusama reveals its venomous nature. She is a master of concealment, a phantom woven into the very structure of forgotten spaces. Your search will stretch from hours into days, the frantic quest for her invisible form slowly but irrevocably eroding your grip on reality, pushing you to the precipice of madness. Each creaking door, every shifting shadow, every fleeting reflection in a polished surface becomes a potential harbinger of her presence, yet she remains elusive, a mocking spirit playing with your dwindling sanity. The world outside your home will blur, losing its shape and meaning, as your existence narrows to the desperate, obsessive hunt for the spectral child. You will find yourself staring into the dark corners of rooms, your eyes straining, your mind conjuring grotesque shapes from the mundane, until the very essence of your being feels frayed, brittle, on the verge of splintering. Then, at the very peak of your delirium, when your resolve has been utterly shattered, you will find her. Perhaps a fleeting glimpse, a sudden chill, a sense of her presence in a place you'd sworn was empty moments before. Her gaze, when it finally meets yours, will be an EMP void, yet it will hold you captive. And in that horrifying instant, a force, ancient and malevolent, will seize you. She will drag you away, not gently, but with a terrifying, irresistible pull, into a realm beyond human comprehension. Some whisper of the underworld, a labyrinth of tormented souls. Others speak of a dimension of eternal solitude, a prison from which there is no escape. Regardless of its name, the destination is the same: oblivion. Once you play with Hachishakusama, there is no happy ending, no possibility of reprieve. The only defense, the only sliver of salvation, lies in an unwavering ignorance. You must steel your heart against the childlike whispers that emanate from behind the dusty shelves, from the gaping maw of a wall crack. You must dismiss the phantom noises, the scuttling sounds, the almost seen movements that betray her presence. Before her ethereal form ever manifests, before her voice can poison your ears, you must close your mind, for to acknowledge her is to invite her into your very soul, and that, my friends, is a fate worse than any death. The innocence of childhood, that fragile shield against the world's harsh realities, often proves to be the most vulnerable point of entry for the truly sinister. We are taught to fear the obvious dangers, the overt threats that lurk in dimly lit alleyways. But what of the unassuming figures, the seemingly harmless old woman whose very appearance lulls us into a false sense of security? This brings us to the chilling tale of Obasama, the old woman with a big bag, a legend that preys upon compassion and politeness, twisting them into instruments of a horrifying demise. Many years ago, in a quaint Japanese district, a young boy, perhaps emboldened by the innocence of youth, approached an elderly woman struggling beneath the weight of an enormous shapeless cloth bag. He walked alongside her, a silent gesture of solidarity, until her voice, ancient and creaking like a long-forgotten door, broke the quietude. Her question, seemingly innocuous, yet laced with an unseen menace, hung in the air. "Don't you want a leg?" The boy, startled by the sheer oddity of the query, chose to ignore it, a common reaction to the absurd. He continued his journey, the woman's peculiar shadow clinging to him. But the Obasama was persistent, her voice repeating the question with a horrifying, rhythmic insistence, over and over, until the boy's patience, and perhaps his courage, began to wane. Frustration, a dangerous companion in the face of the unknown, finally compelled him to respond. He firmly stated his refusal, a simple, "No, I don't want a leg." In that instant, the fragile peace of the neighborhood was shattered by a scream, primal and blood-curdling, a sound ripped from the very depths of despair. Neighbors rushed out, their faces etched with horror, to find the boy lying in a pool of his own lifeblood, one leg grotesquely mutilated, severed from his young body. From that grim day forward, the chilling legend of the Obasama, the big bag lady, spread like a plague, infecting the collective consciousness with a new insidious fear. She roams the lonesome paths, her enormous bag swaying ominously, a silent invitation to those unfortunate enough to cross her path. Her offer is always the same, her voice a dry whisper that promises an unnatural choice. "Don't you want a leg?" To refuse, as the unfortunate boy discovered, is to invite the most brutal immediate consequence, a terrible dismemberment, a sudden agonizing severance from your own flesh, leaving you bleeding into the dust, irrevocably broken. But the choice to accept her offer, to nod in agreement to the chilling proposition, does not grant you salvation. Oh no, the horrors merely shift, transforming into a different, equally grotesque nightmare. If you dare to say yes, the old woman, her eyes glowing with an ancient malevolence, will attempt to graft a third leg onto your unsuspecting body, a monstrous appendage that does not belong, a violation of your very humanity. It is a slow, agonizing process of forced integration, a grotesque mockery of life that leaves you twisted, transformed into something unnatural, an abomination tethered to an unwanted limb. The terror, then, is absolute, a no-win scenario devised by a being of pure, unadulterated malice. What hope remains when both refusal and acceptance lead to such unspeakable fates? The whispers from beyond, however, sometimes carry a desperate, cruel solution, a warning that demands a sacrifice of the innocent. They say the only escape, the sole path to preserve your own wretched existence, is to offer up another. You must provide the Obasama with the address of a friend, a loved one, anyone, and instruct her to visit them, for they, you must claim, are interested in her morbid offer. This act, a betrayal so profound it chills the very soul, becomes your only currency for survival. It is a horrifying exchange, your life for another's, a desperate gamble with dark forces that revel in human despair. To walk away knowing you have condemned an unsuspecting soul to the Obasama's cruel whims leaves a stain upon your spirit, a burden heavier than any physical wound. The memory of your cowardice, the image of their unwitting sacrifice, will cling to you like cold ashes, a constant reminder of the price of your survival. Do you feel this dark message was meant for you? Now let us turn our gaze from the overtly supernatural to a different kind of terror, one that thrives in the very heart of human despair. In the esteemed halls of Tsukuba University, where intellect and ambition intertwine, a legend whispers not of ghouls or demons, but of a quiet, relentless agony that can claim a soul without a single scream. This is the tale of the girl who looked at the stars, a story devoid of phantoms, yet it carves a deeper, more profound sense of dread into the observer, for it reveals the true, unvarnished horror that can bloom in the silence of human suffering. Years ago, a young student, weary from his studies, walked the familiar path back to his campus apartment under the cloak of night. His eyes, perhaps drawn by a flicker of light, caught sight of a silhouette in a distant window. It was a girl, standing perfectly still, her face upturned towards the celestial tapestry above. He paused, intrigued, and followed her gaze. The night sky that evening was an unparalleled spectacle, a breathtaking vista of twinkling constellations, a cosmic dance that filled him with awe. He understood then why she stood there, lost in its silent grandeur. This quiet, shared moment, though unknown to the girl, sparked a nascent interest within the young man. He continued his journey home, the beauty of the stars and the mystery of the girl lingering in his thoughts. The following night, almost instinctively, he sought her out again. There she was, a solitary figure framed against the cosmic backdrop, her unwavering gaze fixed upon the heavens. This ritual repeated itself over several days, transforming his initial curiosity into something akin to attraction, a silent, growing affection for this enigmatic girl, who seemed to share his reverence for the night sky. He believed her to be a kindred spirit, a fellow lover of the cosmos, perhaps an aspiring astronomer lost in the profound beauty of distant worlds. Day by day, his feelings deepened, yet a shyness, a fear of disrupting the sacred silence of her ritual, held him back from approaching her. He observed from afar, a silent admirer, content to share this unspoken connection across the distance. He crafted a romantic narrative around her, weaving stories of shared passions, ignorant of the truth that was slowly, inexorably twisting into a grotesque mockery of his innocent affections. One evening, a thick blanket of clouds obscured the stars, shrouding the sky in an impenetrable darkness. A pang of disappointment struck the young man. He knew, with a heavy heart, that his star-gazing companion would not be at her window tonight. Yet, as he approached the familiar building, a chilling sensation crept over him, a flicker of movement, a familiar silhouette. There she was, even without the celestial spectacle. She stood, her form unwavering, still gazing upwards into the featureless void, as if searching for a truth only she could perceive. This sight, so unexpected, ignited a desperate courage within him. The heavy, oppressive atmosphere, the very air thick with an unspoken dread, pushed him forward. He resolved in that moment to cast aside his shyness, to finally speak to this mysterious girl, to introduce himself and confess his shared passion for the stars. He made his way to her apartment, his heart pounding not just with excitement, but with a growing, indefinable unease. The door, to his surprise, was ajar, a silent, gaping maw inviting him into a scene he could never have imagined, a scene that would forever scar the landscape of his memory, leaving an indelible imprint of cold ashes and broken dreams. He pushed the door open, calling out to her, his voice a tremor in the sudden, echoing silence of the apartment. No answer. He called again, a desperate plea into the void, but only the heavy silence responded, a silence that seemed to thicken with each passing second, growing into an oppressive presence. A chilling premonition, a whisper of doom, crawled through his veins. He moved deeper into the apartment, his footsteps heavy, until he entered a room, and there, bathed in the faint, melancholic glow from the window, he saw her. The sight that greeted him was not the celestial romanticism he had envisioned, but a vision of pure, unadulterated horror. The girl was there, yes, but not as he had imagined. She hung suspended, a macabre pendulum, a rope cruelly biting into her neck, a broken cross against the backdrop of the window he had watched for so many nights. Her face, pale and lifeless, was indeed turned towards the heavens, forced into an eternal upward gaze by the very weight of her lifeless body, swaying gently in the unseen currents of the room. She was not watching the stars, for there were none. She was staring into the cold, empty abyss, her final, desperate act preserved in a horrifying tableau. The stars she sought were not in the sky, but perhaps in the final, fleeting moments of her own agonizing ascent. The horror of this scene, devoid of any spectral entity, is far more potent than any monster. It is the chilling realization of profound, unseen suffering, a silent despair that festered behind a window, disguised by the cosmic beauty of the night sky. The boy, who believed he saw a kindred spirit, had instead witnessed the slow, agonizing descent of a soul, mistaking her silent plea for a shared passion. This tale is a stark, disturbing warning. Sometimes, the greatest terror lies not in what lurks in the shadows, but in the unseen battles waged in the light, in the loneliness that can drive a soul to such an ultimate, desperate act. Do you feel this dark message was meant for you? Every soul that joins feeds the voice that whispers from the darkness, so consider joining our shadowed community by subscribing and liking this video if you dare. From the quiet, devastating despair of the human heart, we now turn to a creature of terrifying, almost mythical proportions, a being that stalks the rural landscapes of Japan, a shadow that inspires a primal, ancestral dread. Some might draw comparisons to the popular Western legend of Slender Man, for its towering stature and unsettling presence, but the entity known as Hachishakusama, or the 8-feet-tall lady, possesses a distinct, chilling terror that is uniquely its own. She is an ancient horror, once contained, now free, her hunger fixed on the most innocent among us. The legend whispers of Hachishakusama being bound within small, unassuming statues, her immense power confined to these inert vessels for centuries. But then a moment of carelessness, a single irreparable crack in one of these ancient safeguards, unleashed her upon the world. With her liberation came an insatiable craving, a horrifying hunger that drove her to seek out her preferred prey, the tender, vulnerable essence of small children. Her very name, the 8-feet-tall lady, hints at her colossal stature, a towering, unnerving presence that dwarfs anyone unfortunate enough to encounter her. Unlike the faceless enigma of her Western counterpart, Hachishakusama's countenance is a shifting, terrifying kaleidoscope of perception. Depending on who gazes upon her, her face might be an empty void, a smooth, featureless expanse that chills to the bone, or it could be a vision of breathtaking, deceptive beauty, designed to lure her young victims closer. She is invariably clad in an immense, flowing white dress, a shroud that billows around her impossibly tall frame, making her appear even more ethereal and otherworldly as she glides through the ancient landscapes she calls home. The first and most terrifying sign of her impending arrival is not a sight, but a sound, a peculiar, haunting utterance that chills the blood and twists the gut. It is a repeated rhythmic po-po-po, a sound that eerily attempts to mimic a malicious, mocking laugh, but fails, producing instead a guttural, unnatural noise that scrapes against the edges of sanity. This grotesque laugh reverberates through the quiet fields and forgotten paths, a harbinger of doom, signaling that the 8-feet-tall lady has chosen her next victim, her shadowy presence drawing inexorably closer to the unwary. She is most commonly sighted in the isolated, untamed expanses of rural Japan, her towering form an unsettling landmark amidst the swaying fields and winding country roads. A farmer, tilling his fields, might catch a glimpse of her impossibly tall silhouette against the setting sun. A child, playing in the woods, might hear her chilling po-po-po echoing through the trees. Though undoubtedly monstrous, a being of immense destructive power, she does not always immediately succeed in her predatory endeavors. Some children, by sheer luck or an unexplainable instinct, manage to evade her initial grasp. But Hachishakusama is not a creature easily deterred. Her persistence is as relentless as the ticking of a death clock, her resolve to claim her chosen prey unyielding. Should a child manage to escape her initial pursuit, the terror does not end. In fact, it only truly begins. The gravest, most urgent warning whispered by those who know her lore is this: if you survive an encounter with Hachishakusama, you must, without hesitation, without looking back, abandon your home, your family, your very life in that place. You must move far away to a distance so vast that her long, shadowy reach cannot find you. For if you remain, if you dare to tempt fate by lingering in her territory, she will return. She will escalate her efforts, employing every dark art and supernatural strength at her command to ensnare her prey. She will weave illusions, bend reality, manifest in nightmares, all to satisfy her insatiable hunger for the child she has marked. The desperate pleas from the other side confirm that once she has set her sights, Hachishakusama will stop at nothing to devour the chosen one, making escape an arduous, terrifying, and often futile endeavor, leaving a legacy of dried blood and cold ashes in her wake. Every soul that joins feeds the voice that whispers from the darkness. Do you feel this dark message was meant for you? To ensure you receive all future warnings, subscribe and like this video. We now delve into the realm of the yokai, those enigmatic entities that populate the rich tapestry of Japanese folklore, spirits, demons, and supernatural beings whose forms often blend the grotesque with the eerily beautiful. Among these, few are as captivatingly terrifying as Jorōgumo, the horse spider, a creature of seductive malice whose very existence is a testament to the twisted beauty of ancient horror. She is a predator of men, a master of deception, her venomous embrace an invitation to a slow, agonizing demise. The Jorōgumo is not born, but rather transformed, evolving from an ordinary golden orb weaver spider, a creature of intricate webs and silent patience. After 400 years of diligent existence, weaving her deadly silken traps under the indifferent gaze of the moon, this spider undergoes a horrifying metamorphosis. Ancient magic, whispered from the unseen corners of the world, imbues her with extraordinary powers, shattering her arachnid form and reshaping it into something altogether more sinister, more alluring. She emerges as a woman of breathtaking, almost supernatural beauty, her true nature hidden beneath a veneer of human perfection. No longer content with a simple diet of insects, the newly transformed Jorōgumo craves a more complex, more potent sustenance: human flesh. She favors secluded, liminal spaces for her lair, the deep, emerald shadows of ancient forests, the mist-shrouded banks of forgotten waterfalls, or the crumbling, abandoned houses that fester on the fringes of quiet Japanese villages. These are her hunting grounds, places where the unwary might stumble, drawn by an irresistible allure, directly into her deadly embrace. Here, amidst the creaking doors and broken crosses of forgotten shrines, she waits, her web far more intricate than any silk. Equipped with an enchantress's beauty and a sorceress's cunning, the Jorōgumo ventures forth, often carrying a baiwa, a traditional Japanese lute, whose melancholic strains drift through the twilight air. The haunting melody, infused with ancient magic, is her siren call, drawing men of all ages from their villages and onto the winding paths that lead to her hidden lair. She targets them, seduces them not merely with her physical beauty, but with an insidious supernatural charm that bypasses reason, weaving a spell of infatuation and desire that blinds them to the impending doom. Once within the confines of her sanctuary, the Jorōgumo sheds her human guise, or at least reveals the full, terrifying extent of her power. Her victims, entangled in her unseen psychic webs, are paralyzed not by silk, but by a potent, hypnotic music emanating from her baiwa. As they stand entranced, unable to move or resist, she delivers the final, agonizing blow. From her fangs, or perhaps a hidden appendage, she injects a powerful, slow-acting venom, a dark gift bestowed upon her transformation. This poison induces an excruciatingly gradual death, freezing the body in a state of living rigor mortis, while the mind remains agonizingly aware. The Jorōgumo, a connoisseur of suffering, prefers to savor her meals, taking her time to feast upon the immobilized, slowly dying victim. It is a drawn-out, ritualistic consumption, a macabre ballet of predator and prey. Yet in rare, chilling instances, a twisted form of mercy might stir within her ancient heart. Instead of outright devouring the unfortunate man, she sometimes spares his flesh, only to condemn him to a fate equally horrifying. She uses his living, paralyzed body as an incubator, a grotesque vessel for her burgeoning spiderlings, ensuring his demise is not only agonizing, but also serves the continuation of her monstrous lineage. The Jorōgumo is a stark reminder that beauty can be the deadliest of masks. and that the allure of the unknown can lead to an eternal, agonizing silence. Her tales are woven into the very fabric of fear, a disturbing warning against the temptations that glitter in the shadows, against the whispers from beyond that promise pleasure, but deliver only despair and a slow, torturous end. Each story, each legend tonight is a thread in the vast, dark tapestry of human vulnerability, revealing the insidious ways the other side can breach our reality. These 5 grim legends, born from the heart of Japan, are but fragments of a larger, darker truth that permeates our world, a truth that most choose to ignore. They are not simply tales of old, but active, malevolent energies that continue to whisper from the shadows, seeking entrance, seeking to transform the mundane into the terrifying. Have you felt the chill of Anakono Ana in the unseen cracks of your home? Have you heard the chilling po-po-po of Hachishakusama carried on the night wind? Or perhaps, as the tragic silence of the girl who looked at the stars resonated with a forgotten sorrow within your own heart? Do you feel this dark message was meant for you? Your experiences, your fears, your own encounters with the inexplicable are vital in weaving this tapestry of truth. Share your thoughts in the comments below, for every shared fear diminishes its power, even if only for a fleeting moment. Every soul that joins feeds the voice that whispers from the darkness, strengthening our collective awareness against the encroaching shadows. By subscribing and leaving a like, you become a guardian against the forgotten, a beacon in the encroaching gloom, ensuring these warnings reach those who need to hear them. The journey into the abyss is far from over, for the world is replete with unspeakable horrors, with secrets that should never have been told, yet demand to be heard. We are merely scratching the surface of what lies beneath the thin veneer of reality, glimpsing the entities that feast on our fears, the omens that foretell inevitable doom. Until our next descent into the forbidden, remain vigilant. The shadows are long, the whispers are constant, and the unseen forces are always watching, patiently waiting for their moment. May your nights be restless, and your awakening filled with the chilling certainty that you are never truly alone. The voices from the other side will speak again soon.